Hi everyone, welcome to my room. Good to see you guys. Good to see you fellows, ladies. I hope you're having a good day. It's nearly 7:30 p.m. here, south of France. My last day in the south of France before, not my departure from this earth, but my departure for Geneva, where I'll be staying for a few days. I'll be back here most likely on Thursday next week, so nothing catastrophic is about to happen. I just had this little inspiration to record a video about this topic of originality. What does it mean to be original? What are the characteristics of someone who's original, and is originality to be pursued for its own sake? I think that fundamentally, if one's purpose is consciously one of, striving to be original, as if one were somewhat and somehow separate from the originality that they seek as their goal, what's going to happen is really some kind of fabrication, some kind of fake realization of originality, and probably as a result of that, one that is bound to not be very long-lasting. You sometimes see people in the street, sometimes they dress originally, sometimes they speak originally, sometimes they have original interpretations of art or intellectual interpretations of things. But it seems to me that there are people who embrace originality for the sake of being original, and perhaps here we could define originality as the cultivation of difference, as the cultivation of existing outside of the norm, outside of convention. It's a really interesting phenomenon, because the more I age, the more I observe the world, the more I realize that the vast majority of people seems to be very happy to belong within conventional structures, social relationships. When there's a wedding, people, weddings are one of my favorite topics when it comes to the analysis of originality, for instance, or the cultivation of difference. Weddings are these really often, not all the time, but the ones I've been to anyway, they're very sequenced, tend to be very clearly, rigidly organized. There's different steps. People are gathered together initially, then there's the ceremony, then there's like the dinner, then there's very long, and we go outside, there's all these little conventional things we do, and then there's the party. And people enjoy these things, they enjoy partaking of these things. I've always found these things to be distressingly appalling. My friends know that. I also make an effort, nevertheless, for them, especially if they're the ones getting married, because it should not be about me, So then the question of one's cultivation of originality or unconventionality, maybe being unconventional. There's always the risk of that turning into manifestation of selfishness, if this unconventionality is one that you end up imposing on others. Now, you could very much say that it is the others that are imposing their conventionality on you. And I think in all the cases this is true. It's the very essence of being conventional. It's liking to have these patterns of group relationships that are very well defined, and people enjoy just jumping straight into them and embracing them for how they should behave. As an Enneagram 5 with a 4 wing, a very strong 4 wing, I find these things appalling precisely because I feel like they threaten my sense of identity, and they make me behave in a way that is profoundly inauthentic to who I am. But it's true that in certain cases, being unconventional, you know, should be questions in regards to whether or not it might upset other people. In the case of someone who's getting married, someone who's very happy about getting married, someone who, for whom this day is perhaps probably, you know, the best day of their lives, it deserves to at least be suggested that in this case there's more to lose for them than there would be for me, for example, in accepting to partake of an evening, take part in such a way as to have to, you know, follow certain codes, certain obvious things that I really, really dislike. So there's always compromises to be made, you know. It's impossible to live a purely unconventional life. In fact, no, it is possible, but it is a very isolating kind of life. Isolating for yourself, but it could also be upsetting to your friends. So maybe a completely unconventional person could not really have a lot of friends, except occasional acquaintances are themselves very unconventional. But here I said something in regard to, you know, my attitudes. I said that I would be willing maybe to sacrifice my authenticity for the sake of the happiness of someone whose happiness is much more at stake than mine on this particular occasion. So even if it's a bit violent for me, I still force myself to the best of my ability to play by the rules. And I think what this emphasizes is that there is a very strong relationship between authenticity and originality or unconventionality, in the sense that I think, you know, if being authentic is something that could be defined as arranging one's life in response to one's true calling without making too many compromises, trying to be as much oneself as possible, staying in touch with one's innermost sense of identity, even as this identity develops over time, then I think that unless your essence as a human being is really that of a profoundly uninteresting human being, which happens, I guess, there's an incredible potential for unconventionality and for originality here, because most people are a bit weird, you know. Not all of them are weird, some of them are banal, but a lot of people are weird, but they play down this weirdness because they want to belong, they want to feel like they're part of a group, they want to feel like they're accepted. So you pay a price if you do not play by the rules, you know. You're going to be ostracized, or at least you're going to feel like you're being ostracized. You're going to be excluded, and the people that exclude you are not even necessarily going to think, oh, this person should be excluded. They're just going to not even think about you because they don't really vibe with the way you are in social circumstances. I mean, of course, this is a broad generalization. You can find in certain communities, in most cities, pockets of people, communities of people who are, you know, who follow kind of the same line. In Dublin, for example, is where I have my people who are a bit like this, who appreciate this, and this is no surprise that this is the place where I find that I'm the most accepted, the most myself, the least judged. And when I say judged, I don't mean necessarily scorned, you know. I mean, like, when you know that people are talking about you as if you were like a UFO of a human being, a bit of an alien, a bit strange. And it is, I think, very much this fake idea that someone who is unconventional or original in some respects seeks strangeness, you know. It's not that they seek strangeness, it's that they are seen by others because as strange, perhaps, or as a bit odd, or as a bit eccentric, perhaps. Because if what you aim for is being different, being strange, if this is what you aim for, as if it was an objective that you want to implement and attain, then your very relationship with your unconventionality or your originality is inauthentic, not authentic, because you're not arriving at it from a perspective of just following who you are. You're arriving at it through the viewpoint of seeking deliberately to be different. It's very, very distinct, I think. I think in one case there is the essential fundamental difference that any human being manifests by virtue of being this particular unique human being. Maybe in some cases the difference is more obvious and more sharp than in other cases, but nevertheless every human being is essentially different. One of the advantages of the social realm is obviously peace and actually having a functioning society, so we can all survive together. And let's not forget that human being is, again, constitutively a social creature. One of the prices to pay often for the, in the process of having these social transactions populate one's life to the extent that they become structurally part of one's life, maybe they are from the start. One of the prices to pay is really definitely that of authenticity. I mean, this is an existentialist premise, but I think it's true. And so the question is really, if one seeks to cultivate their authenticity in view of the mob, right? So you have a crowd of people, the people you get on with, and then there's what Heidegger calls the they, they. I must be like this because they is, and this they is not really identified. It's not really determinate, but it is this sort of weird, indescribable entity that one projects as being the example that one should follow. They do this, they do that, they follow this, and there is a lot of pressure that comes together with that. And to resist it is hard. It's not just socially hard, it's psychologically hard, psychically hard. But I think that pursuing a truly authentic life, seeking to pursue an authentic life, is inevitably going to put one in situations where this pressure, this difficulty is going to emerge, is going to arise. But not only that, I think that one is going to potentially come across then as unconventional, as original. Not because one sought to achieve that. There was never any proper intention on the part of the genuinely authentic, or I should say rather in this case, unconventional, original person, or different kind of person, to be like that. I think that sometimes people misunderstand this about people who are like that. It is an expression of their innermost mode, or most comfortable mode of being and expressing themselves as they are in existence. But they are going to be seen, often they are going to be seen, they are going to be objectified, basically. Their originality is going to become objectified as something that, if one would want to, one could be like the same, whereas it's not the case. I think originality and being unconventional is never a purpose, or is never an option. Essentially, it is never an option in itself. The option is not so much, should I lead an unconventional life? Should I lead an original life? The option, there is an option, but the option has more to do with, should I lead an authentic life? Or should I not concern myself with this question? Now, people who don't buy into this existentialist premise that I mentioned earlier might say, well, you might reject this dichotomy between authenticity and inauthenticity. Maybe some existentialists would say that by refusing to make this choice, you are in itself, in this very decision, making this very decision, you are being inauthentic, which is more and more something that I believe and observe. And there's many other ramifications of this process, whereby I think people who do not have the resources to live authentically in this way might feel resentful and jealous and envious of people who are authentic, and make use of the fact that socially these people could be seen as a bit marginal, a bit different, a bit original, as a way to marginalize them further, as a way to ostracize them further. There's something very unpleasant about the freedom of an authentic person manifesting itself in the face of pressure within the social realm of people who are inauthentic, people who follow the norm, people who follow the they. And so they're all the more likely to be ostracized. And so you can see how it is generally a very difficult thing to be authentic and to be original in this way. and why there's no reason to be like that. There's no rational reason for being like that. This is why it's never a purpose. It's really a vital principle of whether or not you want to live the life according to the way you are, the way you feel, the way you're constituted, or whether you're willing to make these sacrifices in exchange for living within convention. It's less painful, and some people experience that as less painful, but maybe there is a loss of life somewhere that happens along the way. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this question, guys? Please drop me the comments. Do you think that you're original? Do you think you're unconventional? Do you think that this is something that should be pursued? Do you think that this is something that people end up pursuing because that's they cannot do otherwise? Do you think that one can be conventional and authentic? Or do you think that being conventional implies inauthenticity? Let me know in the comments. See you soon, guys. Ciao.